Shaubindo is describing the evolution of society as the individual goes from the infrarational to the rational and then moves up to the suprarational. Society also goes from the infrarational, now is in the rational age, and hopefully one day will move into the suprarational. The important thing to remember is, first, in the rational age, it is supposed, it is believed that reason is the supreme instrument of knowledge and that all problems of the human society can be solved by reason. Now, when Shaubindo gives his arguments, you might think that he is supporting this. He is only showing you the logic of the rational age. Later on, after 2 chapters, he will show you that it will not work, or it will work partially, which is perfectly all right. So, do not ever think that Shaubindo is supporting this position. Right? He is only explaining to you the logic of people who are living in the reason and who believe that reason is the supreme instrument of life. Right? And today, in collective life, at least in theory, we believe that everything has to be explained by reason to the collectivity. The individual is entirely left free to his own choice. So now I'll come back to the book, right? And we come to page 195, right? I will quickly go through it. When you enter the rational age, reason accepts no tradition, it accepts no convention, it accepts no institution, questions everything. So there is a universal questioning. And when there is a universal questioning, questioning everything in all the details, evidently the solution lies by the application of reason to all the problems, universal application of the rational intelligence in collective life. The question that automatically arises is, when you say apply reason to collective life, whose reason is it? It cannot be the reason, according to Shaubindo, of the ruling class, because man being what he is, he'll misuse his reason for the satisfaction of his own power. It cannot be the reason of a few preeminent thinkers, because the average man will not understand it and will misinterpret it. Therefore, it has to be the reason of each and everyone. This is the whole basis of what is called the democratic age. And it is believed by most people that democracy will lead us, as it is defined here, to a last sentence, to live by common agreement, a liberal, vigorous, natural, and yet rationalized existence. Now, this is the whole basis of the modern democratic tendency. Now, in the very next paragraph, this is very important. In practice, you will find that this is not at all true, because the ordinary man is not yet a rational being. He thinks either according to his own interests, judgments, interest, impulses, and prejudices, or else according to somebody else, right? You see, the whole meaning of campaigning is, when you campaign for elections, you use your reason to persuade somebody else to accept you. Right? So different people put different reasons, and therefore the whole party system runs. Very rarely does he use reason for the pursuit of truth, right? Finally, this is very important, he does not use his reason, the freedom, to arrive at a rational adjustment of his life with the life of others. It is, as he puts it, in competition with the life of others. So if I believe in something, I try to impose it on everybody else. This is the whole basis of the modern party system which is going on all over the world today. Right? The result is there is a huge gulf between the ideal and the first results of its practice. So now I would like you to look back at yourselves. I am trying to find out that small aphorism that hardly a single human being is truly rational, including all of us. We reason according to either interest or prejudice or intellectual preference or some other experience, right? So when you pretend that we are rational, we are not rational. What we are is we know how to use reason. Today, if all educated human beings know how to use their reason, but they do not pursue truth. They have likes, dislikes, based on opinions on God knows what, right? Or half, some kind of opinion based on some kind of information, right? So the inevitable result is huge number of parties, right? And then the more important thing is that since the idea of freedom and inevitably equality is now abroad and you are not being given the true freedom, there is inevitably bound to be a revolution, a kind of revolt, right? Because they want. So this leads to what is called a war of classes. And this is exactly what Karl Marx caught upon, right? There is a truth in it, there is no doubt about it. Even today, all over the world, the deprived are raising their voice, either through propaganda or, if necessary, by violence, right? So this is now what is the defect? What is the solution to this? So this paragraph I'll read. It is on page 198. The natural remedy for the first defects of the individualistic theory in practice would seem to be education. For if man is not by nature, we may hope at least that he can be made by education and training something like a rational being. So this is the solution that is being given: universal education. Universal education is therefore the inevitable second step of the democratic investment movement in its attempt to rationalize human society. Now follow very carefully. But a rational education means necessarily three things. First, to teach men how to observe and know rightly the facts on which they have to form a judgment. Secondly, to train them to think fruitfully and soundly. Thirdly, to fit them to use their knowledge and their thought effectively for their own and the common good. So he sums up in three phrases: capacity of observation and knowledge, capacity of intelligence and judgment, capacity of action and high character are required for the citizenship of a rational order of society. A deficiency in any one of these is a sure source of failure. So you see, now when you form an opinion based on a few facts and not all the facts, already irrational. When you do not know how to use those facts, right, then again you are irrational. And thirdly, if you do not apply it in your life, both individual and collective, then again you are irrational. See, now this is a very difficult demand. We all pretend to be rational, right? So especially in the West, it is very powerful. See the next sentence, it's very strong. Unfortunately, even if we suppose that any, any training made available to the millions can ever be of this rare character, the actual education given in the most advanced countries have had the least relations to these necessities. It's a very damning statement, right? That means even in the best education that you are being given today, he says it has not had the least relation to these necessities. I don't want to go into detail. See, but this means that you have to be very careful before passing a judgment. Because if you want it to be a rational judgment, then these three conditions have to be fulfilled. To observe and know rightly, if you know only half the facts and don't want to see the other set of facts, you can pretend what you like. You are irrational. Political parties do that, that is all right. Because political parties are looking for power and they have no pretense even to be rational. They are trying to convince you. But an intellectual who is supposed to be detached, right, and a Sherwindonian who is supposed to be truly honest, seeking for a higher life, if he does this, right, then he has completely gone against the very spirit of the higher life. So there have been people who have said that just as uh, democracy is rubbish, education also is rubbish, right? That it has done no good at all. Now, Shravinder doesn't agree with this extreme statement. So the next paragraph. Democracy and its panacea of education and freedom have certainly done something for the race. To begin with, the people are for the first time in the historical period of history erect, active and alive. And where there is life, there is always a hope of better things. So this is one of the gains of universal education. Secondly, some kind of knowledge and some kind of active intelligence based on knowledge has also become quite common. Men are being progressively trained to use their minds to apply intelligence to life, and that is a great gain. If they have not yet learned to think for themselves or to think soundly, clearly, and rightly, they are at least more able now to choose with some kind of initial intelligence, however imperfect as yet it may be, the thought they shall accept and the rule. So, this is a very big gain. At the same time, equal educational opportunity and equal opportunity of life have by no means acquired. But there is a far greater equality today than it was before. Now see the next question, the next part. This is very crucial. But here a new and enormous defect has revealed itself, which is proving fatal to the social idea which engendered it. For given even perfect equality of education and other opportunity, and that does not really exist and cannot in the individualistic state of societies, because the individualistic state of society is based on competition. So those who have the means and the opportunity will get education. Millions of others will not get education. But even then, even if perfect education opportunity was available, to what purpose and in what manner is the opportunity likely to be used? So this can apply to all of us, right? We have had the opportunity of good education, a reasonably good education. What will we use this education for? So now he says, man the half infrarational being. This is very important, right? Do not pretend that we are rational beings. We are semi-rational and semi-infrarational. Demands three things for its satisfaction. Power, if you can have it, but at any rate the use and reward of his faculties and the enjoyment of his desires. I will pause here and come back to see you. Now, I would like to know from you, all of us human beings, whether you are in some way or the other seeking these three things. That is to say, power. Power doesn't mean becoming president or prime minister. Even in your small department, you want to have some power, which means that you can either dominate or influence others, right? Second, the reward of your faculties. I'm a good dancer. I would like the chance to be able to express myself in dancing. I'm a good writer. I would like to express myself in writing. I'm a good musician. I would like to express myself through music, etc., etc. Right? So this is the second driving faculty. And the third is the satisfaction of desires. I don't think that there is one human being who can claim that he doesn't have desires, right? And naturally, if you have desires, you would like to satisfy it. So these three things are what he calls, right? The satisfaction of seeking power, the satisfaction of the reward of one's faculties, and the satisfaction of one's desires. Now I'll go back to the book, right? So now, in the old societies, say 100 years back, before the democratic age became very strong, the possibility of these could be secured by him to a certain extent according to his birth, his fixed status, and the use of the capacity within the limits of his hereditary status. So, in India, depending on the caste to which you belong, you could fulfill many of these. In Europe, depending to the class to which you belong, if you are an aristocrat or at a higher class, that basis has been removed completely. So, that basis once removed and no proper substitute provided, the same ends can be secured only by success in a scramble for the one power left, the power of wealth. You see, if you want to fulfill these three things, the fulfillment of your faculties and the enjoyment of your desires, you need one thing in modern society, and that is wealth. And therefore, there is a huge scramble for wealth. Accordingly, instead of a harmoniously ordered society, there has been developed a huge organized competitive system, which is known as capitalism, a frantically rapid and one-sided development of industrialism, and under the garb of democracy, an increasing plutocratic tendency. Plutocratic means the tendency to respect wealth, to run after wealth, to regard wealth as the aim of life. That shocks by its ostentatious greatness, grossness, and the magnitude of its gulfs and distances. So this is exactly what I am saying. That this rational age has led ultimately to what you call the scramble for wealth, which has led to a ferocious, fierce competitive society, right? And he says it is shocking to see the difference, the gap. Shocking by two things: ostentatious grossness, showing off. See the amount of money that is being spent for a marriage, crores and crores of rupees. When just beside your house there are people who are not even having the basic element of food. So the ostentatious grossness and the magnitudes of its gulfs and distances. These have been the last results of the individualistic ideal and its democratic machinery, the initial bankruptcy of the rational age. So now I come back again to you. What do you think about this? Do you agree or do you see that it is not other differences? Please speak because it is very important that you. Hello, Asha, Varsha, Martha.
Yeah,
Do you agree with this analysis that Shovinda has made?
obviously, yes.
Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
This is very important, right? Because this illusion that a rational society will lead us to a happy society, a fair society, a just society is a complete illusion, right? Martha, what do you think? Donna? Hello?
Yes, Kittu, I agree. And that word ostentatious grossness
Yeah.
that he uses really hits
Shocking.
home.
Very shocking also, no? When you see the wretched poverty, and in India we see it painfully, right? I read today only that 1.1 million millionaires, right, have gone out of India because they've made so much money, they don't want to be caught, right? And God knows how they've made the money. So this is extremely shocking, painful, right? And that is why, if you look back at the mother, right, mother made it very clear that she wanted to create a society where all men are given equal opportunity to grow. All men are also given all the basic needs of life, right? And reduce your desires, I won't say to the minimum, to a rational level, and use all the energies that you have to go further up and progress spiritually or intellectually or culturally, but to progress, right? But unfortunately, it is not true today at all, right? Those who are lucky, born in a good family or have the money, they get all the opportunity. Others don't get. And then those who have the opportunity become very rich, and there is no end to their wealth. It goes on and on and on and on forever. Right? So this is the basic idea that he has spoken about the rational society. Now, I will not read anymore, but I'll just prepare you for the next thing. You see, the reason believed that it would build an ideal society, and it built the democratic society on this basis. When it sees the results, it cannot stop. It will say, we must find out an answer. And this will lead you inevitably to socialism. Because this huge lack of distribution of wealth, right? Some are very, very rich and the rest are miserably poor. It has to be brought under control. How to do it? The root cause is that I inherit property or I own property. Naturally, when you own property and own a lot of property, you are very rich, you are very wealthy, you are far ahead of everybody else who is not so. So the idea comes in, and very rationally, we are not justifying it, but we are explaining it, that all property should belong to the society. But then who is the society? Because there are millions and millions of people. So the next logical step is all property should belong to those who govern society. That means it is a state. This leads to socialism, and this leads ultimately carried to its logical conclusion to communism. Right? He will show you in great detail in the next chapter, right, that even socialism will fail. So neither democracy nor socialism. So we have to move up to a much higher level. We'll come to that gradually. But we have to understand all these things as it has developed, right? So, socialism, like democracy, communism, like democracy, is the application of reason to life, to social life, to collective life. So, those who damn communism and think that it is an evil, well, it might be evil in its practice, just as capitalism is as evil in its practice, right? And there is an aphorism of Sri Aurobindo where he says, if I had to choose between capitalism, and these are not the exact words, but if I had to choose between capitalism and communism, he would prefer communism. Because at least communism cares for the other human beings. Capitalism only exploits the other human beings, right? But the solution is neither capitalism nor socialism, neither democracy nor socialism. We will come to that gradually, but first let us analyze step by step, what you are doing. So I think we'll stop here today. It is time that you absorb these ideas because you are living in either a democratic society or a socialistic society or a democratic socialist or a socialistic democracy, right? Democratic socialist means more stress on freedom and less on equality. Socialistic democracy means more stress on equality and less on freedom. Democratic will try to give you as much freedom as is possible, and extreme socialism will take away all your freedom, right, in order to help the common good of society. I would like you to absorb these ideas, think, because whether we like it or not, we are all political beings. We are living in a society, and the politics is impeding us, right? Why I'm insisting on this is that Sri Aurobindo believes that none of these will be able to solve the problem. So then the next question comes. What is the system that we have to develop? Now, it is certainly not by a system alone that we can solve the problem. There has to be a huge psychological change. But might be there are certain systems which will lead you gradually in that direction. And that is why when Indira Gandhi came to the ashram and met the mother told her categorically, the greatness of a country does not lie in the victory of a party. Neither Congress, nor BJP, nor Democratic, nor Republican. It is only by the union of all parties that the country can progress. How do we get a system where all the parties work together? That is the problem. And I would like you to think, because all of you are living in a highly charged political atmosphere everywhere in the world, and this is the only thing that I want you to do, right? Because then you might be, then at a later stage, I have written some things. These are all thoughts, right? I don't claim that they are the final solutions, but it should set you thinking. How is it, this message of the mother, it is in the union of all parties that a country's progress depends, right? And not the dominance of one party. But today there is no country in the world where there is a union of all parties. Every country is either this way or that way. So that's it. Now if you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll take it up next time. Anything, Donna?
I don't have any questions, but you've really given me a lot to think about because I've always been under the illusion that this is a democracy that we live in, but I can see that it's moving to the socialistic side.
It has to move because there is a rational movement. As long as there are poor people, deprived people in any society, if you are going to solve it by reason, you have to move towards socialism. That will lead gradually to a welfare state, and etc., 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 and inevitably a certain loss of individual freedom. Now it
That's all,
depends on how far you go.
that's all happening. We've been moving through the welfare state, and right now there's a big turmoil, and it'll be it's a scary time.
It is inevitable. You see, as long as the rich countries in the last century were living by exploiting the poorer countries, there was no problem. Now you have to generate your own wealth because most countries have become free. Exploitation has become 100 times more difficult, right? Even the smallest countries raise their voice. And unfortunately, in every country, there are more or less a very large number of poor people who are deprived. Reason cannot accept this and say that you are bad luck, you are born in a poor family, you can go to hell. It is not possible for reason to accept it. So reason will try to build a system, and that will be socialism, right? But as Shobindu says, socialism also has very serious defects, and they will have to be tackled a little later. So if you look at it from this point of view, there is no cause to be disturbed at all. It is part of the evolutionary process. Anybody else has any question?
I have one,
Who?
Varsha.
Harsha,
Yeah. Um,
I can't see you.
uh, I really don't know why. Okay, I'll ask my question.
Yes, you ask.
For a country like India and especially for a state like Gujarat, which still hasn't reached this rational stage, how can we think like beyond this?
You see,
Because most people seem to be living in the infra-rational, even like collectively.
first thing that you must remember is that you cannot solve this problem at the level of reason. And with the present system, it is absolutely impossible. You can do something, but you cannot solve this problem by at the level of reason, right? So it can be more capitalist or more socialist, right? Both of them will have very serious defects, right? That is why what I would like you to do is to think about creating a system. You see, the mother has done that in the ashram. It is neither competitive, it is to a certain extent socialistic in this sense that everything that is in the ashram belongs to the mother. But every human being here, every human being is given his basic needs of food, clothing, housing, medical treatment, and even entertainment. However good you are or however bad you are, right? Now we have to move in that line. See, otherwise these are all temporary solutions, and I'm not, it will not be Shivabindonian. So I will not be able to answer that question because I don't believe that in the present setup, right, there is nothing to do with who is the Prime Minister or who is the President. It is the setup, it is the whole psychology of society that needs to change, right? And as long as we are driven by these three things, seeking for power, fulfillment of our faculties, reward of our faculties, not fulfillment. Fulfillment is very desirable, but the reward of our faculties and the fulfillment of desires, you cannot expect an ideal society. So, on the individual plane, we have to start working with ourselves. On the collective plane, it is very slow. So, there we have to create a system which will lead to that gradually, hoping that ultimately the psychology also will change. So, this is my answer to you, Varsha. If you have any problem, you.
I have another question following on your answer, if it's okay to ask.
I couldn't get what you said.
I have another question, if it's okay to ask two questions.
Yes, yes, you can ask.
Okay. Would it be necessary for each part of the world to go through this socialist stage? Because India was never socialist and we haven't even moved till there. Or is it enough that some parts of the world went through it and, I mean, as humanity, we benefit from this?
See, the point is that do you believe that every human being, in whichever part of the world he is, should be given the basic needs of life? Say
Obviously.
yes or no.
Yes, yes.
Basic needs means food, clothing, housing, medical treatment, and education. Everybody must be given the same opportunity for education. Then let us see how he uses it. If he misuses it, well, he drops. But you have to give him that basic need of education. Now, in a normal society, it is impossible to do that. If you want to do that, if you believe that this is an ideal which is very desirable, right, then we have to find out a system by which you can do it. If you can find a system which is not socialistic and you can do it, I'll be very happy. But as of now, reason has not yet discovered this. It is true that sometimes in every country of the world, those who are capitalistic, have got a huge amount of money, are adopting villages or giving something. But it is just a drop in the ocean, right? They are not in any way depriving themselves or reducing their comforts. After being very secure, they are helping others, which is a good thing, which is very healthy, right? But it is not enough. So there are all kinds of theories that if the rich become richer, then the wealth will trickle down slowly and come down. That is one theory. Trickle down theory it is called. Another is socialistic, etc., etc. All these are mental theories based on reason, and they have their place. And as of now, since we have not risen to a higher level of consciousness, it seems to be the only way. Yes, Donna.
You said that um, we agree that every human being should be given the basic needs of life, which include education, etc., and that if he doesn't use it, that then he drops.
Not he drops. If he doesn't use it properly, then well, he'll have to pay the consequences himself, naturally. If you don't study, I'm giving you the opportunity for studying, I'm giving you everything. If you do not study, well, it's your bad luck. That's all.
But where do these people go? Because it seems like with the welfare state, they may not have used it to bring themselves up. So if they drop,
If
what?
they have used to bring themselves up, it only means one thing, that they are not rational human beings. Correct? If they were rational, they would have used the opportunity that has been given to them. Correct? That means they are either dominated by the lower impulses or instincts or whatever it is. Now, as long as they are dominated by those things, you can't do anything to them. In fact, I'll tell you what mother said, that after the age of 14, every child here in the ashram should be given the opportunity to study by himself. When I say 14, it means mental 14, and make the necessary progress that is necessary for himself. If he doesn't want to study, it is not your business. Let him be. Let him find out what it means to be an idiot in life, right? And then he'll face the consequences. So, you see, you can't go on saying that I'll do all the wrong things and it is the business of the state to protect me at any cost. I'll keep drinking and drinking and drinking and spoil my kidney, but the state has to look after me. Well, you have to learn to pay out for your own consequences, no? See, so this dependence on the state is an idiocy. It is the individual who has to change himself, and the state can help him by coordinating. Right? But that means that we have to give up this expectation that the state will do everything for us. It will give you an opportunity for education. If you don't want to get educated, what can we do? It will give you an opportunity for maintaining good health. If you develop all the bad habits, what can you do? Right? Well, they will get cancer. In fact, I told one lady one day who was complaining bitterly about her husband that he does all kinds of things like drinking, smoking, etc., etc., etc. And then she has to go and spend the whole night with him in the hospital and look after him. I said, why are you bothered? You tell him that either you change your habits or you stand on your own feet. You have to take the responsibility of your the idiocy of your husband. Right? I find that ridiculous, absolutely. I mean, up to a point, certainly you can do. But if the person decides to be stupid, right? And I'm speaking from practical examples which are very close to me. They have ultimately said, look, it is up to him. Let him decide what he wants to do. And let him face the consequences. I will do all the wrong things, and then the wife or the husband or the father or the mother have to protect you. When you are a child, we will do that, but not after the age of 17 or 18. So you see, ultimately we are coming back to the same thing. We have to change the psychology of the human being. We are trying to solve all our problems by systems, by the reason. It will never, never succeed beyond a certain point. Right? So while trying to change the system and improve the system, remember that the essence of the problem is changing the level of consciousness. And this is the essence of all that Mother says. We are all the time thinking by doing this system, by removing Narendra Modi and putting somebody else, all that is rubbish. Unfortunately, we have to work within a small system, but we must remember that we have to move towards something which has to be twofold. On one side, improving the system, on the other side, changing the psychology of the human being. That is why when a young boy of 19, 21 goes about in the street raping people, right, raping girls, you expect the government. What about the father of the child? What is he doing? It is his business to see that his son doesn't do that. No? So everybody wants to be conscious of his social responsibility, and then we can have a reasonably good society. I know that it is very difficult in the present situation. So naturally, we seek for temporary solutions, but then that has nothing to do with Shovinda. I am talking to Shovindonians, therefore I am speaking this language. If I had to talk to non-Shovindonians, I wouldn't tell them. So they will say this is all nonsense. It is all futuristic. It will take 25,000 years. They might be right also in that, but whether it take 25,000 years or 25 lakh years, you should know, we should know what is the direction that we should take. And in our own little sphere, we are neither Prime Minister nor President, in our own little sphere, try to solve that problem. Try to create that atmosphere. But if you are concerned about solving the problem of the world, well, God bless you. That's the way it is.
Thank you, Kittu.
Right, so next time we'll meet. If anybody has any questions, you can always ask. There's no problem. I mean, write a letter.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Right?
We'll
Thanks.
if there's no more questions, we'll close the broadcast.
So that's all, no? For tonight.
Okay,
Okay.
that's all.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.